So last year, I made my own 2024 bingo card that listed everything that I thought would happen in 2024. And I was right about some things and I was wrong about some things. So I decided to go ahead and review my 2024 bingo card, see what I got right, what I got wrong. In another video, I will be making a 2025 bingo card, but let's first see how good of a job I did at predicting the prior year of 2024. Now, I do have this other window over here on the left. I'll be using that for different citations because I did grab some articles about some of the things that did or didn't happen throughout 2024. But let's start with the first one, which is either the USA declares war on an Arabian or Palestinian nation, or someone else declares war on us. This ended up being false. Nobody did that. And there's no article about nobody declaring war on a single thing. So that's an ugly X. What the heck was that? Hold on. Wait, let me redo this. Dude, that's so bad. Okay, hold on. There we go. These X's are awful. Okay. They always are. Or else they wouldn't be X's. All right. Next, we have Catholics turn against Pope Francis. This one actually ended up being true. I'll mark this one as true. I was able to find a couple articles about this. I'm just going to very briefly go over the headlines for them. This is from Newsweek. Pope Francis faces growing revolt. This is from Newsweek from March. Pope Francis is facing growing dissent among members of the Catholic Church over recent decisions that opponents portray as contrary to traditional church doctrine. They're probably right. I mean, they're several years behind in revolting against Pope Francis, but hey, at least they got around to it. Most controversial has been the publication of a document in December by a Vatican bishop with the Pope's approval mooting the possibility of blessing couples in irregular situations and same-sex couples. While the document stressed that it did not change the church's stance on homosexuality, it brought a joint letter from Catholic clergy and scholars calling on others to disregard it, which is insane. So this is not even the congregation. This is like actual clergy. Pope Francis' rebellion grows as 90 Catholic figures sign scathing letter. Yo, they wrote the 95 Theses. I love this. Previously, in his 11-year tenure as the head of the church, the pontiff has raised eyebrows by suggesting that even atheists could go to heaven. That's crazy. In saying that he did not judge homosexuals, as well as taking a softer stance on abortion and remarriage. Yeah, I think that's what this is about. Is the one about atheists going to heaven. All religions are a path to reach God. Ridiculous quote. So yes, Catholics did turn against Pope Francis, and finally, at long last. Spotify lays off more employees. This ended up being false. Spotify did not lay off more employees. So we're 1 for 3, sadly. Let's see how this goes moving forward, though. Here we have people get disappointed by Javier Milei. Now, I'll say no, because it seems like he is about to turn around the government, the economy. This article here says Argentina's much mocked Javier Milei just might get the last laugh. Let's see. It's easy to mock Argentine President Javier Milei with his crazy hair. He was, after all, nicknamed El Loco as a teenage goalkeeper. Yet, when this explosive character said he recently was one of the two most relevant politicians on the planet, alongside Donald Trump, he turned out to be right. But this week, as he marks the anniversary of his ascent to power, Milei could point to significant success in curbing the curse of inflation and shrinking the state. Though consumer spending has crashed, poverty has risen, and growth remains elusive. Those things will come in time, of course. These are the sort of growing pains of sort of riding the ship of really, really, really bad economic decisions. So yeah, when it comes to Javier Milei being able to deliver on his promises, especially when it comes to getting rid of the debt and shrinking the government, it's been a success. You know, you can't really say that he has not done what he came in to do, except maybe economic growth, but you're not going to get economic growth overnight, especially when you're riddled with things like debt. So I think he did about as good as he could do. I would rank that as false. Here we have terror attack, and while we were just 1 week shy, no, we did not get a terror attack in the United States of America in 2024. Let's see. Euphoria season 3 gets delayed again. That one is true. It did get delayed again. Oh, oops, wrong color. Yes, it did get delayed again. Now, I believe it is about to start shooting, but yes, it did get pushed back. This Euphoria season 3 is delayed, but Sam Levinson is still committed to new episodes. In the interim, we are allowing our in-demand cast to pursue other opportunities, HBO said. Euphoria season 3 is coming, just not soon. In a new statement on Monday, HBO revealed that while creator Sam Levinson was still committed to making a third season of the hit drama, any projected premiere dates have been postponed. Variety reports that scripts for season 3 are still being written. I think they finally finalized the script pretty recently. So, yep, that one is true. Major streaming service shuts down is the next one. And that one is extremely true. Extremely true, because it happened to multiple streaming services. So there was this one right here, Funimation. Funimation is shutting down and taking its digital library with it. It's an anime streaming service that was the main competitor to Crunchyroll, I believe, but Crunchyroll ended up buying it. But it's not just Funimation, because Crackle, Popcorn Flicks, and Redbox all shut down as well. So actually seeing a lot more bleeding than I thought I would see, especially with the free ad-supported streaming services. I thought that just by making themselves be a marketplace for ads, that they'd be able to get enough revenue to keep themselves afloat. Walmart very clearly has been able to do this with their Roku TVs, but this doesn't seem to be working for these streaming services. So that's kind of a shame, but yes, that ended up being true. Now, when I said this, I think I had in mind like Peacock, because there were rumors that Peacock was shutting down. I'm not sure if that's the case. I've started using Peacock a little bit more frequently lately, and it's actually a pretty good streaming service. It'd be a shame if it got shut down. I'm not rooting for it to get shut down, but we'll have to keep an eye on that moving forward. I don't know what's going to end up happening there. Christians start calling Elon Musk the Antichrist. This is true. Now, this is mostly anecdotally true. I've heard people tell me this in person, and I know almost all my friends are Christians. However, there was this live stream called Elon Musk, Is He the Antichrist? It says Elon Musk and the Antichrist. It has over 100,000 views. And it's got people saying that Elon Musk is the Antichrist. And I know that this is just one video, right? Some might say this is the anecdote, but I've been hearing people say this in person. So I'm starting to think that there is slowly but surely an undercurrent of Christians saying, you know what, Elon Musk seems to be the Antichrist, right? He's trying to control transportation, payment processing, the main lines of communication in the town square. You know, maybe this is the type of dude who could create something so centralized that it is something like the mark of the beast that is described in Revelation. But who really knows, right? I think you got to be careful when you're making guesses like that. Next up, we have Trump dies, and it wasn't for lack of trying, but no, Trump did not die in 2024. Yeah, it wasn't for lack of trying. Next up, we have unexpected conversions to Christianity / revival. This is actually true. We're seeing this in Hollywood. We're seeing this in individuals making certain types of content as well. It's actually really cool to see the amount of people who are like in like the celebrity spheres giving their lives over to Christ. Very, very cool. I think it'll destigmatize religion, because I think the general secularist default position on religion is bad, it's a crutch, and it's run by corrupt people. It's just a method used to control people. But when celebrities start doing it, I think people are going to start rethinking things and be like, oh, hold on, well, maybe religion isn't so bad after all, right? It can't be so bad if all of my favorite actors all of a sudden are turning to Christ. So I think that's sort of where the culture might be going. I don't know if that's true, but that's just my hope, and that seems to be what I'm noticing. I don't know enough people who spend a lot of time focusing on celebrities, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. This is also the type of change that might not be noticeable or significant until years down the line. So this isn't going to be something that can happen today. It will be happening over the years as more and more people get converted. Next up, we have Joe Biden doesn't die. This is true. Joe Biden did not die. Next after that, we have Angel Studios will not have a top 10 domestic film. I was right about this one, but I do have to give Angel Studios credit because if you go look at the all the top movies from 2024, Angel Studios actually didn't do too badly. So Angel Studios had 4 movies in the top 100. I think they had a fifth one outside the top 100, but they had 4 movies inside the top 100. They had Sound of Hope at number 92, Bonhoeffer at number 91, 86, Homestead at number 86, and they had Cabrini at number 70. So they're still out there kind of like fighting with the big dogs, like duking it out with like what MGM, A24, Warner Brothers. Like these are with the big dogs over here. So pretty cool. Them not having a top 10 domestic film does it spell doom for them as an influencer in Hollywood media. I think they still are out there influencing things. So very cool. Next, we have more teams leave the ACC, but it stays alive for now. This sort of happened, but not really. So I am going to give this an X because the teams haven't actually left. However, there were rumors that teams would leave the ACC. There were rumors circulating in July, and I'm not like completely appraised of what's going on here. You can look this up for yourself if you're more interested. I did hear that there are more rumors of teams leaving the ACC either this year or next year, but you know how that all is going to happen hasn't been ironed out yet from what I hear, and I don't know all the details of that either. But yeah, kind of interesting that I was sort of spot on about the ACC losing teams, because that was sort of a shot in the dark. I was just like, well, you know, these, Big 12, the Big 10, they kind of poached, I think, the Big East and in the Pac-12, kind of killing those conferences. So what's next? The ACC. It is one of, I think, the 4 biggest conferences, right? Because you got the Big 12, the Big 10, the ACC, and the SEC. But I think of all of them, the ACC is the least relevant. And so those teams are going to want to leave. So I'm actually kind of surprised that I sort of predicted that happening, even though it didn't end up happening in 2024, of course. Next, we have Netanyahu is forced out of his position. This is false. However, people are trying to get him removed. So that's one of those like not yet things. I don't know if he'll end up getting removed because he has a pretty tight grip on power from what I hear, but we'll see what happens there. Here we have Pat McAfee becomes the #1 sports talk show on cable, not counting online or ESPN Plus ratings. I'm going to rate this as false, but it was also sort of hard for me to get hard numbers on this. I don't know if people have compiled total year numbers. I did find a couple articles here. This one is from a more limited period of time, but here, this is for the beginning of the year. So it says Pat McAfee got 390,000 viewers in January, but First Take got 680,000 viewers. So pretty good numbers. Even if you add in like the YouTube views, they're at 506,000 in comparison to First Take 680,000 views. So it doesn't really seem like the #1. We've also got this here. ESPN First Take. This was in November, so later on in the year, right? As Pat McAfee has had a chance to get settled in, First Take has 449,000 viewers, while Pat McAfee has 261,000 viewers. So not terrible viewership, but he hasn't become the #1 star on ESPN overnight like I thought he would. To me, he's sort of like the big star, but I don't think everyone views him that way. Next up, we have Disney releases a pretty good MCU thing. This ended up being true because Deadpool and Wolverine, of course. I think all along might count for some of you guys. I don't know. the whole horror, spooky witch thing isn't really, or magic and witchcraft thing isn't really for me. I sort of like suffered through it. And it's definitely a step up from some of their other stuff that they've released, like Echo and things. But in general, I was more or less nonplussed, especially with the ending. I think the ending sort of undid a lot of good that the show did over the course of the majority of the season. Next up, we have MSNBC fires at least 3 hosts, and I was so close on this, but no dice. So MSNBC lost 2 hosts, not 3. They lost both Andrea Mitchell and Mehdi Hasan. Now, Andrea Mitchell left hosting MSNBC, but decided to do other things for NBC News. Mehdi Hasan was the one who got fired outright. But yeah, MSNBC lost 2 prominent figures in their programming slots. I'm a conservative, I suppose, but I am actually salty about the Mehdi Hasan one. I think a lot of his rhetoric was hateful and things, but I'm one of those like free speech dudes. I wish that guy was able to continue a show on MSNBC. But MSNBC, I think, sort of just got spooked by how hateful he is of Israel and decided to get rid of his show. Kind of a shame. Again, no great fan of Mehdi Hasan. I think he's relatively hateful, and is a conspiracy theorist. But I think he's the kind of person who his clips would go viral on social media. And it's like, you need to have someone who appeals to the demographics of people who viewed those clips online. MSNBC generally doesn't have that. So it sort of feels like a graveyard network where you send progressive talking heads to die. Like, it's like, there, Al Sharpton. I promise that you have some people listening to you on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon or whatever it is that he's on. It's like, yeah, that's getting set out to pasture, joining MSNBC. I was so close, but yeah, so far. This next one is EA Sports College Football 25 is pretty good. That one ended up being true. Fantastic game. I love playing that game. Oh, wrong color. All right. This one says Ron DeSantis ends up with no political power. This one ended up being true. So because Ron DeSantis lost the presidential race and he gave up his seat to do so, he's now left with nothing. Now he's hoping to get Marco Rubio's old seat. So he might end up getting some sort of political power in 2025, but not in 2024. He of course, he's still incumbent, but his replacement is going to replace him pretty soon. So he basically lost all his political power there. Pat McAfee gets fired or demoted by ESPN. That ended up being false. So I'm marking X on that spot. But apparently some people were conspiring to get him fired or removed. So there was a whole situation with Norby Williams. Actually, let me see if I can find the clip of that.
It's fascinating, this rating, AJ. Really is.
Yeah. Wait, well, how do they even do ratings now? How do you even collect?
Exactly.
There's so many different platforms.
Well, that's
and people fake ratings all day, every day, and they buy views.
Total audience delivered is a mathematical equation that was created by these networks to, kind of get a number to wherever they need to get to. And we've always mocked it, because on the internet there's a scoreboard, literally, and there was times where people would buy views and buy concurrent viewers, and that was certainly something that was a part of the internet's history. I don't think it's happening nowadays as much because it's very obvious when it's taking place. It's like, well, there's no action, you see, but you got that number, but there's no. So those two would correlate with each other. You get exposed. So I think the internet, the reason why we've always enjoyed it and why we've always mocked whenever these networks or other internet networks release their numbers, it's like, what's real? What is, and if the people are watching and they're hate watching, is that good?
Right.
Is that
Still count though? That still counts.
Definitely, but does it? Does that matter? Are those people going to ever support your? Never. right? So like what numbers matter, what numbers don't matter, what numbers are fake, what numbers are on in restaurants, what number, so like the numbers thing is something that I literally just stopped paying attention to. People wouldn't believe that because I'm the person that does my own negotiating and everything like that. And when business has to take place, I will certainly do my due diligence on what our show has accomplished, not only as a live show, but with clips and our podcast, which has only grown. I think it's the biggest in the history of Disney podcasts of all time, I think is the case. So it's like I try not to pay attention to it at all. So then now whenever we go to ESPN, it's like this is the second time where they're like, hey, let's talk about the ratings for the show. I'm like, sweet, let's do this. I don't like to be a numbers guy because I think that kind of skews creativity. Like if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, like certainly learn about it, but don't be scared to maybe shape it up a little bit and try it again. So whenever these numbers get presented, I'm like, oh, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that there's a lot of people watching whenever we say things like birds aren't real.
Well, like you said, comedic informative. Who am I not to bring up something that a massive part of the world is
Or that like a 10-foot gorilla is,
bingo.
doing his thing.
Exactly.
Because when that gets, written down, typed up, certainly a little bit different than the delivery in which context was stated.
The bird
What are these
thing,
guys
though.
talking about?
Exactly.
Did you notice this morning?
What's that?
It's 20 degrees out. Birds were awfully chirpy this morning.
Oh, is that right? That's so weird. I would have never seen that coming.
Well, it was warm, and then it got cold. They're pissed.
The sun was out.
Wait, hold on.
what are we
is this
talking about?
related?
Yeah.
to-
Oh, the sun's out?
6:30 in the
Oh,
morning?
okay.
Yeah,
They're
sure.
birds then.
Hey, that sunrise was phenomenal.
So
Beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Almost crashed the car on the way in.
Anyways, we're very appreciative, and we understand that more people are watching the show than
Okay,
ever.
yeah,
They're
here,
birds
here,
then.
here it
Hey,
is.
that
Okay,
sunrise
sorry.
was phenomenal.
Sorry for making you guys
beautiful.
wait.
It
Here
was
it is.
beautiful.
Almost crashed the car on the way in.
Anyways, we're very appreciative, and we understand that more people are watching the show than ever before. We're very thankful for the ESPN folks being very hospitable. Now, there are some people actively trying to sabotage us from within ESPN.
Funny.
More specifically, I believe Norby Williamson is the guy who is attempting to sabotage our program. I'm not 100% sure. That is just seemingly the only human that has information, and then somehow that information gets leaked and it's wrong, and then it sets a narrative of what our show is, and then are we just going to combat that from a rat every single time? I don't know. But like somebody tried to get ahead of our actual ratings release with wrong numbers 12 hours beforehand. That's a sabotage attempt. And it's been happening basically this entire season from some people who
That's crazy.
didn't necessarily love the old edition of the Pat McAfee show to the ESPN family.
Sure.
There's a lot of those. We've heard them anonymously quoted in the Washington Post, in the New York Post,
Right.
in the New York Times,
Right.
in the LA Times,
Right.
in Wall Street Journal.
Right.
And they're never like, yeah, love the show.
This is
It's
awesome.
always like little things to try to tear us down. So even with the enemy within our own camp, somebody that I don't like that guy. That guy left me in his office for 45 minutes, no-showed me in 2018. So this guy has had zero respect for me. And in return, same thing back to him for a long time. So even with that taking place and potential PR, we're still growing somehow.
Yep.
So we're very thankful.
Yeah.
I think we're doing it right. We're trying to do it as right as possible. We have good intentions every single time we come in here. We don't always get it right, but Mike's been getting it wrong for a long time in this specific field. Long time.
Every day, every single day. What do you mean? Like you said, you have the right intentions. Like we're trying to sit here and have fun and talk about sports.
Bingo.
And Connor and other stuff as well might pop in here or there.
Every now and
We
then.
can stay away from those.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to talk about them.
So that's crazy that someone inside of ESPN was trying to sabotage this show. Now, interestingly enough, Norby Williamson actually was the one to get the boot. He was actually the one that got kicked out of ESPN at the end of the day. There's some poetic justice there. Probably one of those like God has a sense of humor type moments. So Pat McAfee did not get fired or demoted by ESPN, but that was largely that was not necessarily for lack of trying. It's just because the efforts failed. Also, I think it's because the viewers love him. Got to move on to the next prediction here, which is Disney shelves Blade. I'm going to mark this one as true, even though it's a little bit more complicated than that. So they pulled it from the 2025 calendar, and they did not give it a new release date. They did not give it a new release date. So it is essentially in development, but it does not have a release date. We have no idea when this thing is coming out, or apparently this is coming out, but I don't know. Maybe it's coming out, maybe it's not. I think they're claiming that it's coming out, but that doesn't mean that it is. Let's see. We've got economy doesn't collapse. That one is true. The economy did not collapse. We've got no arrests made related to Jeffrey Epstein. That was true. And last but not least, we have overall media sales will rise again. That ended up being false. Media sales did not rise again. It was actually pretty bad. I was surprised. Of course, it's like me to be optimistic, but it was a lot worse than I thought it would be. To be fair, this is sort of a snapshot based on a quarter. I don't think the total numbers for 2024 are out yet, but at least in Q3 of 2024, box office sales in the U.S. fell 22% year over year, while DVD and Blu-ray sales dropped 26%, according to DEG and Omdia, which is significant, by the way. Like, that's crazy that it would drop that much. Now, this doesn't mean that it's the end of physical media. I think one thing it's important is to keep in mind is that people who are collectors will always be getting 4K. Like, there are articles out now saying that 4K Blu-rays are going to be the saviors of the physical media space, just because they're the ones more consistently getting physical media, and they're not going to stop, versus casuals who oftentimes will be the ones getting like the DVDs that you see at the store. I'll be walking around the store and I'll see DVDs for something. I'll be like, man, isn't House of the Dragon season 1 on 4K? Why do they have a DVD here? Who's going to want to see that quality? Well, there are plenty of people who like to just buy DVDs here and there just because they see it on a shelf, pop it into their TV, or pop it into their game console or whatever. Hit play, and they're not pixel peepers. Like, they don't care about the quality. They just want the experience of actually owning the media, which is also cool, by the way. But that's just not for me. So for those types of people, especially as the economy gets worse, they might not get as many DVDs. So that might be part of the reason why we're seeing that decline. But actually, I think that I did not do too badly when it comes to these predictions. So I think this is 24 predictions. So I have 24 predictions. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 out of 24. It's not horrible. It's not horrible. I'm batting a little bit over 500 here. So kind of interesting. Now, I know this was sort of a lot, and I know you guys probably want to see my 2025 bingo card. I will make that at some point when I have more time to do so. But for those of you watching, I'd like to know in the comments section, did you guys make a 2025 bingo card? And if you did, how accurate were your guesses? Were you pretty good at predicting the future, or not as much? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments.